Welcome everyone to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission, here to help you both look and feel your best. And of course, myself in the process. Who doesn't want to look and feel their best? Isn't that the truth? All right. Today's topic is all about becoming your king and queen in order to become your most beautiful, radiant, and vibrant self. Now, for those of you tuning in live, this is a live podcast recording. Really fun for me to do these solo live podcast recordings with the School of Radiance community. So we have a few of you behind the scenes here. And we have some questions and answer time, which is exciting. And I prompted everyone before we started recording 2 questions. What do you think of, and I want you to consider this. This isn't some light, here's 5 steps to great skin. We're going deeper here in regards to sort of like the energy and really the vision, the legacy, what you're building in regards to learning about how to care for your skin. What rejuvenation options are there out there? What about the biohacking stuff to help reduce inflammation and clear out the noise so that your energy is dialed in and you are operating from a much higher vibration because you don't have toxins getting in the way. So, I talk about that stuff until the cows come home here on the show. And we're going to be focusing a little bit more into the vibe of kings and queens and what they kind of represent in the process and the journey of us showing up as our most beautiful, radiant, and vibrant versions. So consider what comes up for you when I mention kings and queens in regards to an association with beauty, radiance, and vitality and vibrancy. The next question I would love for you to consider is, what are some of the qualities that kings and queens have? What are some of the qualities that kings and queens have? So maybe consider some people in your environment that just seem to be in this great king and queen dynamic in their family. What do their lives look like? What does their family life look like? What is your home like? How do they go through life? How do they feel? What kind of sort of like energy is around them when you engage with them? And what is maybe this sort of spark or this niggle that, you'd love to have some of that too. So in today's episode, we're going to be unpacking some of those things and topics like this that get more into the core, the embodiment, the energetics, the presence is very much what I dive into in the membership, which is basically a personal development container to help you transform into your most radiant version. We go very, very deep. This is just kind of giving you a little bit of a sprinkle in regards to some of the things that we touch on there. So membership, great place to hang out. Learn more at theschoolofradiance.com. Okay, so we had some really great responses here. When people think about kings and queens, they think about the masculine and feminine polarities in relationships, not just romantic, not just lust, not just chasing, not just over giving, but it's the polarity of what the masculine and feminine represent, which is also represented by the king and queen vibe. Okay. And it's actually the polarity is where the power is. And we're going to talk about presence and what that is. So that's what I think about as well when I consider the king and queen vibe in regards and relationship to being our most beautiful, radiant, vibrant selves. It's having a knowing that I'm just going to give it to you straight here, my friends. It's the polarity, it's the presence. That's really where the magic is. And biologically, we have different things. Ladies, we do our hair, we do our makeup, we wear cute outfits, we adorn ourselves with jewelry. We represent the beauty. And we also represent the peace and the nurturing sides of things. And of course, the magnetism. And then the The gents, the men, the kings, they represent more of the giver, provider, protector, and the presence of both of those actually what's super powerful. And why that's actually powerful, and I think it's very important to highlight, is what happens with the nervous systems, what happens with the hormones, what happens with the biological changes that can happen when this beautiful polarity is present and it exists and it's in union together. And I'm not going to beat around the bush, and we're not going to get super politically correct in this one. I'm just going to stick with, okay, kings, queens, game of chess, the biology of it. This is where we're going to stay. I'm not going to kind of deviate from that. To be your most beautiful version, one of the keys is to be in this queen energy. And I'm going to distinguish the queen vibe from the princess vibe and the king vibe from the prince vibe. So princes and princesses, they are doted after for their entire lives. They have an easy life. They don't really go through many initiations. They don't really have to deploy any strategies or have rule over a kingdom. But they're also still being formed to do that one day. So you can actually think of princes and princesses as your kids and your family. And for you tuning in, you're going to be more likely in that king-queen vibe. So what do the kings and queens do? Well, in harmony, they create a structure to allow a kingdom to flourish. They rule, they have dominion, and they don't do it by accident. They're decisive and they take action. And this can actually have a kind of like a overlap or correlation to the choices and the decisions that we make every single day to support our biology, to eat great foods, to purify your air, to limit your exposure to electromagnetic frequencies. And eating the right foods is really key to reduce that inflammation. And also then doing some detoxing work through clearing out yeast, fungi, mold, heavy metals, and parasites. And why that's so important is for you to clearly rule a kingdom, you need to be decisive. And if there's fog in the way, if there's inflammation in the way, if there's leaky energy somewhere, then that efficiency, that clarity, that vision, that legacy, getting your name in the history books because you did a really good job and you led a bunch of battles and conquered new castles and acquired and built and all these things. You can't do that if there's stuff in the way. So doing the biohacking sides of things and the self-care practices every single day isn't just a nice to do, it's a need to do. And you could live like the pawns or the regular normal people and just say, oh, I'm just going to age well. Well, I'm going to give it to you straight here. If you take that approach, this laissez-faire approach, this go with the flow, and not have ownership and sovereignty over yourself, you may very well end up in your 80s in a diaper and not being able to remember your loved ones. Sorry if that was a little bit harsh, and also wanting to be respectful of those of you who have parents who are in that situation. But you have a decision right now to choose something different. You can stay on the path that you're on, or you can continue on a path or maybe even a new timeline altogether where the version of you shows up differently for yourself first. And I'm highlighting this concept of really showing up for yourself first before you show up for others. And what do I mean by that? Filling your cup up first, taking time to do your skincare and beautify yourself and clean your home and have your life organized. Taking the time to set things up in your life so that what is part of your vision, what you are hoping to achieve and maybe even, I hope, live your purpose, you do need to have sort of this North Star inner compass of actually what that is. But some of you might know what that is already. I'm pretty darn clear what mine is. It's really to help embody and talk about this concept of radiance so that we have better relationships, so that we look better, we feel better, and we all can just get along because our nervous systems aren't scrambled. We're very clear and decisive with what our energy goes to. We don't have leaky energy, and we just feel great. And we're a pleasure to be around, right? That's what we think about when we think of kings and queens. They're commanding, they have an authority. People listen to them. People really take notice of the moves that they make because they're moves to actually do something. And regular people that just kind of go along with what 99.9% of the population is doing, with eating certain foods, with watching certain things, with listening to certain things, and not necessarily living a purpose-filled life. You have, say, like a mason or a weaver or a castle builder. They all serve a purpose, but don't you think that most of those individuals would much rather be the king and the queen? Here's the difference, though. Some people, of course, are born into privilege and all this stuff. They have a bit of a leg up. And then some people go through obstacles and traumas, and they cultivate resilience and then readiness so that they can overcome other obstacles. So categories of people that tend to really excel in life, either have that leg up, so they're born into royalty, or they've overcome really difficult challenges in their lives and they've come out on the other side. They've learned the lesson and they're a bit of a lighthouse for others and share that empathy with others maybe who are going through something similar. So everyone does have a purpose. But what I'm getting at is I think most people want to be a king and a queen. That should be probably pretty clear. You know, you have the posh outfits, the banquet dinners, and, people really pay attention to what you're doing. And there's this reverence, there's this respect, there's this loyalty to the royals, right? And, in everyday life here, I think that everyone really does want to be respected. They want to be seen. They want to be seen as valuable. And actually having this health information, this nurturing information that I talk about here on the show, with all the cool biohacking stuff and incredible guests I have, you're actually building your foundation of really beneficial knowledge that you can share with your king and queen so that you both are happier and healthier. And then you can also share with your kiddos, the princes and the princesses as well. So you're adding to your value. And one of the things that I think strikes a chord with a lot of women, especially new moms and women who are going through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, kids leaving the house, really tricky family dynamics, demanding workplaces, just demands in life in general, we can sort of lose focus on what's actually important in life and what actually fills our cup. And we kind of lose ourselves a little bit. We lose the sovereign nature of really who we are. And we do have to make a choice to actually claim that back. And so we have inflammation, right? Your lifestyle choices. The level of inflammation that you have in your body is directly going to impact your ability to function in a certain way. And I like to be functioning at a pretty darn high dialed in state. And I do a lot of beautiful self-care practices behind the scenes in order to function in this way and wear all these hats that, I have the opportunity to teach and lead in all of those different capacities. And it requires a lot. And what I have to do in order to do that I want to give you all permission to do, if you're not doing enough of it, is to get back to you, take those salt baths, enjoy your skincare, doing your facial gua sha, doing your dermal rolling. Today, actually, I have a lesson on dermal rolling in tutorials, which is super fun. And really just enjoying the process and the journey in life, and not so much focusing on the negative things, but really focus on the things that are flourishing, that are going well. and things that are pulling on your energy, which are typically people, places, and things and situations, to take a good look by allowing yourself to actually be quiet. And we are in the spring season here. So I give you permission to start to do that spring cleaning of people, place, things, situations, past patterns, or loops. We have attachment styles that get established in our childhood, then we have lived experiences. We all have our own lens of reality on how we view things, that yours, by the way, might be different from someone else's. So for you being on this journey of personal development, learning how to care for yourself, it might not be as high of a priority as someone else that you engage with. There can be a difference in level of information and the discipline and strategy that you employ all the time, and that's totally okay. Everyone's on their own journey, but you're choosing to do these things. You're choosing to rise. And to be in queen energy, king energy as well, does require peace. And one of the comments here we had from our live audience, what do you think about when you consider a king and queen? Is we have an answer here: to bring peace. So what's a really fun part? When do people celebrate when kings and queens are reigning? They celebrate, they have the opportunity to, have all this fanfare and all of these fun festivities and festivals and music and celebrations and decorations when there's peace during a king's and queen's reign. You're not going to be celebrating when there's a battle going on and, the loved ones are off to battle, and then the ladies and the kids, and, sure, they have some degree of guard, but they're kind of, they're not at full capacity. They're kind of spread out a little bit. There's different things that are happening. There's chaos. We celebrate when there is peace. But to have peace, you do actually need to develop a degree of self-mastery to have your own peace, no matter what. Now, how deep does this peace stuff really go? And what does it actually represent in relationship to beauty and radiance and vitality? Nervous system regulation mastery. Simply put, your nervous system is going to be shot if you're in a high cortisol state all the time. Stress happens, your nervous system is in this fight or flight mode, you're getting dumping of adrenaline in your body. Signs that your nervous system is really kind of like rattled and on high alert all the time is when you hear a noise and you kind of get drawn to, okay, what's going on? Is that a threat? And actually, what this can be a response of, for those of you tuning in, you're like, I would love to be more in this peace energy. I'd love to be able to step into the king and queen that, would just feel so great to feel like I'm actually ruling the kingdom and we're reigning with a sense of peace. I'd love to just give you a warm hug right now, because what nervous system dysregulation can actually be a sign of is trauma. So if you are going through life and you're noticing that your nervous system is really pretty rattled, sounds, smells, vibrations are just, they're piquing your nervous system, they're elevating your cortisol, that can be a sign of trauma. So it's actually beneficial to step into that king-queen vibe, which we have here, to bring peace. To bring peace, you have to be peace. If you're a queen and you want to bring peace to the kingdom, for a king to have a peace, you have to be in peace. And the only way to do that is to keep your cup full, is to be warm, is to be present, is to be grounded, is to be fully embodied. not putting your head in the sand and, the woes of the world that are happening all the time and there's chaos, but for you to actually develop and cultivate the mastery to master your nervous system, to when you have the opportunity to rest and recharge, you can be in that peaceful state. Now, when we're working and accomplishing tasks, as ladies, we're kind of in that masculine thinking, analytical, compartmentalizing, getting tasks done. Ideally, maybe 20% of the time, and then about 80% of the time you're in your feminine. You can still actually accomplish those things in a feminine way and flowing through tasks. And the sort of like the reality and the lens that you have and that you embody and that you feel while you're doing those tasks will actually help to calm your nervous system. And what is the number one risk factor for disease? It's stress. So no matter what, learning to be in a peaceful state is a form of self-mastery. It's a form of nervous system regulation mastery. Now, what are some of the ways that we can get sort of like these moments of self-care? Drinking something warm as opposed to cold, unless you're having a hot flash and that cold thing just might be the one thing that suits you. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, getting outside, grounding, salt baths, making sure that your blood sugars are on point. So hitting those protein goals, staying hydrated. One of the other things I do want to talk about here in regards to the self-care, and as you're listening to this, it might be kind of like bringing stuff up for you, and that's totally okay. Everyone's on their own journey. But for me, what happens is I can kind of vibrate a little bit. And this is actually voltage. And when we're growing, when we're developing, when we're on a journey and these new things are coming up, these rewards, these initiations, these activations, learning to fully be in your body, to be present. That's what love is, by the way. Love is being present. Love isn't about being needed. Love is actually about presence. So if you have parents, think about that love that you have for your parents, right? When you're with your parents, the way that you show love is to be present. It's not to be needed. If you're in this state of, starting to step into being a queen and being a king, you need to be present. And it isn't, again, it's not about being needed. And a lot of times, there's the healer wound, there's the mother wound, and all sorts of these different things that can mess with us being present, primarily actually toxins. Actually a form of that can be confused as a heightened nervous system is your nose being really sensitive to smells. That can actually also be a sign of liver toxicity. So if you're noticing that you pick up on smells all the time and they seem super intense, it's actually your liver. So I've heard from detox experts, probably hundreds I've interviewed here on the show. So it's maybe time to do a detox. But you got to do the spring cleaning first of the environmental toxins, but also the leaky energy. So to be fully present, think about a time when you were fully present with someone. You might have been at the beach. We just had Mother's Day and we had a beautiful Mother's Day brunch. My sister and I hosted it for my dear mom, and we were present. How were we able to be present? Well, I know I was very present. I was sitting next to my mother and everyone's having this conversation. And I said to my mom, what's the best part of being a mother? And I talked to her afterwards. And she said, you know what? I almost cried in that moment. Because that was love. That was being present. I wasn't talking about all the other cool stuff that I did, taught 60 doctors in Vancouver the other day, was on a helicopter. I wasn't talking about any of that stuff. I wasn't talking about, things that I have to take care of on my laptop a little bit later. I wasn't talking about that. I was being present. And that was a beautiful form of love. And a lot of you tuning in here are what I would consider like very empathic, very intuitive, which is why you resonate with what I talk about here at the School of Radiance podcast. But it's this presence piece. And we confuse sometimes, you can tell I've been doing a lot of this work behind the scenes too. But this is just stuff that I've observed in my patients over the years. It's really figure out when you are speaking with someone. Maybe you're speaking to your king and queen, or your princes or princesses, or work colleagues, or friends, or people that you engage with just randomly while going through life that say, hey, you're looking extra gorgeous today. Great outfit. Love your hair. Your skin's so beautiful. You'll start to get those compliments once you start to tap into this stuff. That's when you know you're there. But you tend to enjoy those moments and engagements more when you're present, because you have peace. And I think one of the best things to do is to just get really clear on what's actually required for you to rule the kingdom and where leaky energy might happen. Where does chaos in your life come from? And in my experience with observing people, it's usually other people. It's other people that bring the chaos sometimes. We all have that girlfriend that's always going through something, and they, just end up offloading when really they should be probably offloading to their therapist or ChatGPT. More on that in the membership. But this is where we can kind of, when we're talking about polarity of the king and queen, I want you to start to observe this in people who are definitely not in the king queen vibe. They're in the super lost, they're in the super chaotic vibe. What are some of the things that they put attention and energy onto? Are they dark things? Or are they positive things? Right? Dark things can take the form of music, shows, books, all sorts of things. People that just are not acting out of integrity, which are actually going to have really low levels of confidence, by the way, because to raise your confidence is to make great decisions so that you have confidence and trust in yourself. But notice what chaotic people really struggle with. They struggle with being present with, say, you. And they don't really have the capacity to say, how are you lately? How are you doing? What they're operating from, their reality is all this different ish that's going on in their life and all these different things that are dividing people. That's what they talk about. Those are individuals, polarity, that aren't in this vibe. And they don't have peace. And what I find truly brings peace is actually clarity. Okay, we're going to tie this back to the skin. We're going to tie this back to rejuvenation and all that cool stuff now. Having clarity over which skincare products are going to help you address your skin goals. Redness, fine lines, wrinkles, sagging skin, sunspots, age spots, large pores, acne, hooded upper lower eyelids, changes to the skin on the body, hair loss. What are some of the products that can help to feed and nourish the skin and also the scalp to be healthier and actually feed the skin and not just put something on it to make it look good or feel good, but actually nourish? And then the other component is having clarity on which rejuvenation options are actually going to move the needle. No pun intended. We have the non-surgical options, which are lasers, injectables, and then, of course, the surgical options. Which ones are worth the time and money? Which ones are going to waste your time and money? Which ones are super painful? Which ones are more comfortable? Which ones yield better results? Having clarity around that is also great because it's going to save you time and money. And then, of course, the health piece of what's actually going to save you time and money in the long run, if you're not just thinking short term but long term, is what you start to do today to live better, to feel better, to be more beautiful, to have more peace. Is actually having clarity on what to eat. Simply put, take the Viome gut health test. There's also the My Toolbox Genomics and the DNA company that are really helpful for taking a look at what could be supportive in the way that you live and show up, with your DNA so that the expression of your DNA, which is the study of epigenetics, can be better supported. This is the concept of testing instead of guessing, because guessing or trying doesn't really yield excellent results. And I think if we're all completely honest here, we're all just doing the best we can with the information and the strategies that we have. So I trust in today's episode, there's been some light that's been shown on maybe a couple of layers behind the scenes that are contributing to emotional, mental, energetic, physical, spiritual things that either you're leaking energy and you're getting inflammation from, or every single day throughout the day, you're making beautiful, constructive, very decisive and disciplined choices to yield the long-term results, which are going to be beauty, radiance, and vitality. You're going to live longer. Well, unless your time is up for one reason or another. But you're setting yourself up to, in your later years, be more healthy, be more active, be more capable, have the capacity to remain present as long as possible. So in an act of self-love for caring for yourself, you are setting the stage for reigning, for the kingdom, for the legacy, and to be able to love longer and later by being able to be present. And in the process, because you're more present, you have more peace. But with reigning a kingdom, there's lots of moving parts: faith, family, fun, freedom, fitness, finances. There's a lot of moving parts there. So to really be in that king and queen energy and be able to really also be in polarity to support one another with our each unique biological, energetic, spiritual, physical gifts, we need to remember something super simple. Women are meant to receive. Your love is not based on how much you're needed or how much you give. And an example of this is when you see someone and you can clearly tell that they've put an effort into their outfit, their skin looks great, they've done their makeup, their hair looks lovely. What does that actually tell people? When someone values themselves enough to take the time to take care of themselves, it tells others around them that they are valuable. And just want to lovingly check the busy badge wearers, the moms, the dads that wear the busy badge of honor, the overachievers, those that have the feeling that their worth is based on productivity. I mean, sure it can. I mean, that could be what pays the bills. But when people see that as their worth, then that's when things can kind of fall a bit flat. And what's happening there in the compartmentalization of accomplishing tasks and looking at their productivity as their value for men, and then for women, wearing that busy badge of honor, not having their hair done, a messy bun shirt. You can make a messy bun look cute, ladies. I actually have a great Instagram hair hack, in case you haven't noticed. I share what that is in the tutorials and membership. It's a huge time saver. Oh my gosh, so easy. It's actually not expensive whatsoever. But when you begin to maybe identify how you've been overgiving because you feel that your love and your worth is tied to being needed, you got love all wrong. You got peace all wrong. You're not present. Being present is love. But to be present, you need to have peace and cultivate this awareness over how you're operating. And maybe some of the ways that you have been operating, which has been programmed since childhood, which is the area of attachment theory. What's the state of your level of inflammation or oxidative stress? Where are some of the areas where your energy is leaking? People, places, things, situations that are bringing unnecessary chaos into your life. But wait, what you might be confusing is for you to feel loved, you need to feel needed. It's not your job to fix everybody. It's not your job to hear everybody's problems. And I do share in the membership how to have engagements with people that might have not the same shared values. Nobody has the same reality as you, let's be honest. So how do you engage and communicate, show up in a way that's still pleasant and present and with peace? That's etiquette. And yes, I teach that on not just how to use your knife and fork, but actually what to do with your gestures, your energy, your eye contact, your word choice. How do you kind of skirt around conversations and sticky topics when you can pretty clearly identify that someone might not have the same values as you? And it might not be the best use of your time and energy to have those kinds of conversations. And maybe it's better just to keep it light. So I call this the in and out situation, the in and out conversation style. And there's also some other ways to navigate through that, which is negotiation. When there's a common sort of unifying goal, how do you get along with everybody? And that's really my goal for each and every one of you, is to be in a place where you feel so much peace, no matter the chaos that's around you, but you have this mastery to embody peace. You can only do that by being present. And to be completely honest with you, that is the highest gift that you can actually give to the world. I know it sounds so simple, but the more you work on yourself to actually master your responses, your nervous system, doing your self-care, this is actually, I think, one of the highest acts of service, because you're being present, which is what I mentioned, is actually what love is. And love is a super high vibration. So if you're kind of going through this health, wellness discovery of yourself, you are going through a health crisis, you're noticing that your skin is changing seemingly overnight. Welcome perimenopause at ages 37 to 41, going through menopause, loved ones passing away, big life transitions, splitting up, job changes, house changes, some type of huge life event. How do you roll with the punches? I don't want you to be a punching bag either. And when you're in this process of doing what you need to do to be your most sovereign self, we all have very beautiful, unique personality traits to us. We all have our own DNA blueprint as well. We all have unique signatures just to us. We all are unique based on that, but also what our passions are, what our purpose is, how we show up, what are our, that sounded very Canadian, what are our isms? What makes you you? What makes you have fun? What lights you up? Why do people say they like being around you? For myself, as an aesthetic nurse, people like seeing me in the clinic because they know that I'm not going to make them look overdone. I'm just going to help them look revitalized and refreshed. That's kind of one of my isms. One of the other isms is, if I can do it, so can you. How can we all just look and feel our best together? And if you see someone wavering, kings and queens are rulers. They reign, and they're in a leadership position. And one of the really cool things about you being here and tuning into the School of Radiance podcast is that you're learning some of these strategies that also are helping to initiate and activate you to become a leader in whatever capacity that looks like. That might look like, hey, Paula, sorry I had to leave, had an emergency call with my kids' school. Here, perfect example, right? What happens when life happens? Do you stay cool, calm, and collected? Tap into that noradrenaline, eyes on the prize. What's the North Star while I solve this problem? Are you doing that? Or is it totally flustering your day? You're losing track of other things that you need to do to stay balanced. You're kind of living on this knife's edge of knowing that something's got to give. This might be too much. And you're not taking the time for peace. I'm here to tell you, the more you actually do your self-care, the more resilient you're going to be and better able to be adaptable, not to conform, not to be moldable, but to be adaptable while still maintaining your own sovereignty and that beautiful uniqueness to you, no matter what. And I think that these are really just simple life skills that are absolutely paramount, and I wish more people knew about, because I know how impactful it's been for me in my life and becoming very clear of what my purpose is. And for me, that's like the ultimate joy in life, that what I'm doing is meaningful, that what I'm doing is helping people. And I hear this all the time when I have a one-on-one with someone and they say, you know, I've been following your show for a while. I heard you on a podcast and I'm so excited to be here with you. And we get on the call and they want to know, you know, how do I streamline my skincare routine? What's the best rejuvenation? And I pause a little bit. And then I actually listen to what the pace of their life is like. How much capacity do they have for peace, presence, and are they in polarity? And polarity, just to distinguish for those of you who just tuned in here, is different than division. It's probably something important to delineate here. Division is what keeps us apart. It's what keeps us distracted. That's exactly what chaos does. You're going to be more able to celebrate. Remember, when kings and queens are reigning and there's a peaceful time, that's when the celebrations happen. But sometimes, the hero's journey, there is a problem to solve and there's an obstacle. How are you going to overcome it? Are you going to give to others until you deplete? And then, hey, guess what? You can't give anymore because you've totally lost yourself. You've lost your spark. You got health stuff happening now. You've then lost the ability to fully be present with yourself and bring the peace. It is like magic when, for those ladies out there who really, truly embody this feminine radiance peace, it's like a drug. And it's so powerful, but because it has the ability to shift a room. It has the ability to make someone smile because they can tell that your energy is pretty darn on point and they love seeing someone put together with a smile on their face too, and then it makes them smile. And then think about it with your partner. What's your partner going through? What do they need support with? And it's so funny that you actually being in your most discerning, decisive, peaceful, purposeful, and protected state is what's going to get you there. But the question, of course, is, okay, well, what do you do in all those different states? What's the strategy to actually master and overcome things that you didn't know you had to overcome with? You didn't know you had to overcome yet. So some deep-rooted whys here of why people just don't do the self-care stuff. They don't see that they're worth it. They don't do their hair and makeup, put on a cute outfit because they don't value themselves. And they're stuck in this program that to be needed is to be loved. But people are going to respect you more They're going to value you more, and they're going to have more reverence of you when you can show that you're peaceful, you're fully present, and you're living your purpose. When people don't have those three qualities, peace, presence, and purpose, what happens with their eyes is their eyes kind of dart back and forth. We have NLP. They're searching, gathering information. They're either making it up or it's audio or visual. NLP is really cool. What also happens is their nervous system is shot. They're in survival mode. Could be also a sign of trauma, toxin burden. And they're going to be jittery. They're not going to have clear movements. They're not going to also potentially make the highest decisions and have great discernment because they're too stuck in survival mode. And then they see that their value is tied to being needed, giving too much, or that their productivity is their purpose, when really it's the presence. Kings and queens command. And a couple hours before this, I did a call with one of my colleagues, Christy. We have Building Your Beauty Brand. So I teach doctors and nurses across North America with her how to show up online so that they get more clients into their practice all across North America. And Joy, this was Lindsay. She actually recorded a reel. And one of the things that really stood out to me in her showing up on video, which, showing up on video isn't for everybody. It's like 2% of people who actually utilize social media online are creators. I guess I'm one of them. The way that she showed up was magnetic. There was a sense of, this is really important. You need to pay attention. And I'm the expert to help guide you in that process. And I was so happy to see this because so many people doubt themselves. They simply doubt themselves. It's called imposter syndrome. And this can limit your ability to shine in what you do for work. It can limit your ability to shine in social situations because you don't have confidence. It can limit your ability to command a pay raise because, hey, you're super fit. You look like you take care of yourself and sleep right and make great decisions and you're charming. People like being around you. You're attractive. Those are the people who make more money. The people who people want to be around because they're attractive and they're fun to be around and they're super smart. They're dialed in. They got their ish together. Those are the people that are going to get the raises, not the people who are showing up late, disheveled, not really being very productive. What's going on with those different people? One is very decisive and likely doesn't have a ton of chaos in their life. And the other one is really going through something. They're clouded. They're in this fog of chaos. So I think that we all have the ability to step out of that and into the path of being our best versions. That's really why I wanted to use the king and queen analogy. Because I feel like, okay, if we're to kind of conceptualize here what the highest version of ourselves could be, I mean, I'd say God's right up there, but I don't really want to go down that route. But the kings and the queens, I would say, are really the epitome of mastery. So at the end of the day, what brings the highest level of skin beauty? It's mastering your skincare routine. It's getting a really dialed in rejuvenation plan. What is mastery of radiance? It's how you show up. It's the energy, the peace, the purpose, the presence that you have learned to embody, which then sparks this kind of remembering in others of, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. They're shining differently. I want some of that. And then, of course, the vitality piece, the vibrancy, getting that vibe high, focusing on really great things, noticing the beautiful things around you in your life every single day as much as you possibly can, instead of focusing on the negative things. When I talk to somebody, because I got to talk to a lot of people, And people focus on negative things or really kind of like dark, low vibe things. I show up and I'm present and all of that, but I'm also very conscious of how I show up and what I disclose. And do I let all my radiance shine? How do I protect myself from a couple of different ways? There's definitely some ways that I do that. I talk about that in the membership stuff I don't want to talk about publicly. But how do we do that to maintain our vitality and then also start to add, say, one new biohacking thing a month with getting an air purifier, with purifying your water, with wearing some blue light blocking glasses, or getting some red lights in your home so that you don't have these glaringly bright LEDs, which are going to tank your sleep. We're also seeing early cataract development in individuals in their 40s, which is an 80-year-old eye disease. So this modern technology stuff, for us to be present and in peace and live our purpose, we simply have to learn how to adapt. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the benefit of adaptogens to help your body during this process. So when you step into a brighter version of yourself, this new version, sometimes there's going to be some shifts that you'll feel somatically in your body. Things in your life might start to shift. People, places, and things and situations might start to fall away to make room for other things that are then matching who you are becoming. And adaptogens help you do that. So shout out to Organifi, spelled with an I instead of a Y, Organifi.com/Varga. Use promo code Varga, save 20%. Adaptogens. They support your adrenals so that when you're going through these processes of personal development, just going through life, allowing you to be more peaceful, present, and purposeful, is to really support your adrenals, which are these glands that sit on top of your kidneys. And when we're in high stress environments, we're releasing a lot of cortisol, which then can impact your adrenal function. You've probably heard of adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue is very real in today's society because there's so much chaos. And consuming adaptogens is one thing that I do every single day to just, act as a piece of self-care for myself to protect a vital gland so that I can still move through life, sift through and discern what's chaotic or what's coherent and be my best version. So adaptogens are absolutely critical. So that word that I just mentioned, coherence. Oh, we just had a sweet car drive by. I do like the sound of a good V8 with little exhaust. I know that's not very PC for me to say these days, but those are things that bring me joy. You can see I got a little excited, but anyways, it's the coherence that's everything. Coherence is also part of the picture when it comes to being in this peaceful, present, and purposeful state. So you can think of it like static on the airwaves, and I'll end with this. What are the static on your airwaves? What's adding to the chaos? What's adding to the incoherence? If there's too much incoherence, you may very well become incoherent and not be discerning. Coherence, on the other end, is when everything is flowing and things are more smooth. And this doesn't happen by accident. It's a very conscious choice when you're stepping into this higher vibration of radiance, which the example of the King and Queen is kind of representative of, is you are coherent. Your energy is coherent. Your energy and your cellular machinery is operating at a very high level. Peace, love, and joy. Just remember those hippies. Have a good laugh about it. It'll help you learn it and integrate it better. But it's really the coherence at the end of the day that is what brings the peace. So I had to play with this. Great way to drop into peace right now is 4 breaths in, hold it for 4, and 4 breaths out. 4 seconds while you're doing the breath in. Hold it for 4, and as you're exhaling, 4. And simply just do that a couple times. And this will be something really simple for you to do throughout the day to actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system. So you're making those cool, calm, collected, noradrenaline hormone derived decisions to achieve your purpose and follow that North Star, as opposed to the incoherence, which is going to be that more adrenaline, which is going to spike your cortisol, which is going to tank your adrenals, which is going to lead to fatigue and you not being able to shine your brightest. So just start to have an awareness, do that breathing, keep yourself in as much of that parasympathetic nervous system state, because that is actually the state from a nervous system perspective of where you are when you feel peace. And sometimes you just got to fake it till you make it. Even if you feel like everything is falling away around you, there's chaos around you. You do have the decision to be present, to live purposeful, and command peace over your body and in your home. Once you reach this radiance embodiment, especially the feminine radiance embodiment, you do have the ability to shift a room as a woman, and you become very magnetic and very attractive. And for men, it's really having that reverence and devotion and discernment that is actually what's going to support the feminine to be in that peaceful, feminine, radiant state. So it's protect and provide. It's peace and nurture and beauty and magnetism, and all that stuff. Like that's not chaos. That's just biology, everybody. But that's the energetics behind it. So anyways, long story short, be in peace for radiance. That's super key. And I'd love to just open it up for a couple of questions, a couple of aha moments or responses from those of you who are here live. And for those of you tuning into this on the show, thank you so much. The School of Radiance podcast has been a top 30 in the US show for how-to and education, and top 30, in US and top 20 in Canada over the years, which is pretty incredible. YouTube, a little bit smaller in YouTube, a couple thousand subscribers. So please be sure to subscribe to the show. Maybe I'd like to think I have a face for YouTube, but apparently I have a voice for podcasting. More so. Very interesting. And voice carries a lot. So watch how you speak to yourself, watch how you speak to others, not watch, but just have an awareness, and just notice how you can soften even more. And through softening, that's really where the peace and presence and purpose comes from, when we can be still and we can be quiet. And actually, when we're in peace and stillness, that's when the most beautiful moments of self-reflection happen. And it does require you to sort of hold this flame of your own peace and sovereignty and self-care practices to actually get there. So I mentioned some cool words. Love you all so much. Lots of things to talk about. This is probably going to be one to listen to a couple times. This kind of like deeper level of me talking about beauty, radiance, and vitality is actually what the membership is all about. And we really get into the stuff that truly matters to support us on our journey to truly embody beauty, radiance, and vitality, so that we can be better leaders. We can be better kings and queens and make right decisions and have the strategy to do so to win at the game of life and receive maybe what we came here to receive, and live a life of purpose that maybe we signed up for. I don't know. There could be something to that. Just saying. So the membership's a fun place to be over at theschoolofradiance.com. If you have any questions, reach out to me, info@theschoolofradiance.com. As always, it's a pleasure to serve each and every one of you on our journeys of just, how do we be great humans? How do we make an impact? How can we all just get along? And how can we look gorgeous and be magnetic in the process? Beauty is very powerful thing, which you've learned a little bit more about here. Deborah says, thank you, Rachel. You're very welcome. Paula, can't wait to see the full recording. I do hope that your child's okay. You're the queen. Hold it down. Remember, peace, presence, purpose, no matter what. That's a beautiful North Star, kind of a lighthouse to continue to focus on so that you don't get derailed and fall into incoherence, but you stay coherent and all of that goodness. You got this. You all got this. Love you all so much. Share this episode with a friend or family member. And as always, be yourself, be high vibe, beautiful, radiant, and your self-care practice is a form of self-love. And now you know it's actually a long-term form of self-love to those who you love the most that are part of your kingdom.